Dealing with your program data for your ABB robot on the Teach Pendant can be a pain. All right. If you have the Teach Pendant open, let me go ahead and open that up. And you're dealing with the program editor, and you're like, okay, how do I change the location of drop off, or whatever it is? Let's come up here to block 1. You could say can't do edit, and you're like, well, how do I change this? All right. So modifying your program data. Now, your program data, there are all sorts of options there. So if we go to the 3 lines on the top left, a little like start menu-esque area, there is I'm going to call it an application for program data. So we can go ahead and select that. Now, right off the bat, it shows you, right now, for me at least, I have 6 different program datas. All right. Some of these you'll always have, like clock, load data, tool data, work object data. You probably won't have rob target right off the bat. Now, if you've already messed with the robot, or you've been programming or created locations, you will have rob targets, and you may or may not have nums right off the bat. But these are all different categories. Basically, call them folders. Anything that's a robot target gets stored in the robot target section. Anything that's a number gets stored in the number section. So let's go ahead and explore the rob target. So we can go ahead and hit show data. And here you can see a whole bunch of different locations that I have. So we can see I have block 1, and if I click on this, now we have the edit, and we can say change declaration. All right, which will allow you to change the name of it, change your scope, all sorts of other things. You can change the initial value from here by going in there, but you don't have to do it that way. You can also just double click on it. So if I click once and then click again, that will take you into that value section. And here they kind of break it down for you into different subgroups. So we have the transform part, which is the XYZ. We have the rotation part, which is the Q1 through 4. We have the config part, which is 1 through 6, 1, 4, 6, and X. We have the external access, A, B, C, D, E, F. So breaks it down into all those different sections. Most likely what you care about the most once you've set the initial location is going to be your X, Y, and Z axis, all right? Which is nice, because if we change the X, Y, or Z and the robot's in this position with its end effector tool at that angle, when you just change X, Y, and Z, it stays at that exact same angle and orientation. So that part will not change, which is really quite nice. Now, if you would start attempting, didn't mean to press that. If you would start attempting to modify these Q1 through 4s, that will then start changing the angle at which the end effector is grabbing something. So I don't suggest you ever try to manually change these. Remember, when you square all of these values and add them together, it's supposed to equal 1. I don't understand how that works, but that is, from my understanding, how that is supposed to work, at least. So something to be aware of. I've just given up on modifying Q1 through 4s manually. I will always modify Q1 through 4s via the jogging the robot and whatnot around. Now, let's say you did want to change that. All right, now let's go back. We'll come back to changing in a second. One of the best ways to get the robot to a position. So you're like, okay, where is my magical position here? So let me go ahead and reset everything. Go back to manual, go back to enable. I want to put the robot back to block 1. And how do I know I'm going to get exactly to block 1? The easiest way to do that is to go to your jogging screen, say go to, select it, and then you have to click and hold go to. And as you see, the robot will move to that specific position. All right, and even if you keep holding it, once it's there, it will just stop. Now, maybe you say, I don't like this, right? If this was truly a suction cup, that's not quite accurate enough for me. That's not vertical enough. That's why we're having a suction issue. All right, then we're gonna have to go. We can go back to the jogging screen. We hit close. All right. Ideally, you change your tool to the tool that we're using, which I don't have loaded. All right, so when we rotate this, it's going to be around the axis up here, not around down here, which will cause a little bit of problem, but it won't be too bad. We can deal with that. We're going to go into reorient mode, which is, we can tell by the little circle here. It also says reorient under motion mode. And we can not the button I want to press. So it's going to be this one. I can work on making that more vertical. Alright, that looks to me to be pretty stinking vertical now. Alright. Now we need to get it back to our actual desired location. And yeah, I know it's kind of a pain to have to constantly reorient yourself, but that's just the way the game goes. Alright. As you can see, we're much more vertical now. Within my 5 millimeters, everything is looking good. Alright, so that is what I want my new block 1 to be. So if we come back to this, we go the flex pendant, we go back to program data, we go to block 1, we can do edit and modify position. Now this will pop up saying this operation cannot be undone. So once you've changed it, it's done. Alright. Now luckily we are in a simulated environment, so you can save your program pre and post with a different name, and that will allow you to go back to those original positions if you would ever need to. However, if you're doing it on a real robot, you can't do that. So make sure you are truly ready to modify that position. Also make sure, even more importantly, you're modifying the right position. I've done it many times where I'm like, okay, I'm at block 2 and I'm coming here and I think I have block 2 selected and I have block 1 and I do edit, modify, and I'm like, yeah, just modify it. And I'm like, why does it never go to block 1? Why does it always go to block 2? And it turns out I modified the wrong position. So make sure you've modified the right position. So we can do that. Now what we can also do is we can copy this block. So say you wanted to, say, okay, I want to make a new block 2. That's using my new orientation. I could say edit, copy. We're going to call this block 2.1. Block 2.1. Go ahead, hit OK. Doesn't like my point. Okay, we're going to call it block 21. Alright. And now we can say I need to move in the, which direction is that? In the X direction, negative 40 millimeters. So I can come in here and I can go edit, change value, X minus 40, so 119. Go ahead and hit OK, hit OK. And now if I come and I say go to block 21, you'll notice I'm now in that exact same orientation where if I say go to block 2, I get my angle back. Alright, so that makes our life a lot nicer. So you can very easily duplicate data, you can move the location. The program data is a very powerful window. Now, if you want to go back, so you can say let's go modify our numbers, we hit the exit button at the top. Oh, jogging window. Not actually what I wanted to do. Go back to program data. Let's go to the number and hit show data. If you hit view data types, would take you back to the options. So anyway, we can go to numbers now. These registers we don't want to change, but notice I have my vertical offset distance at 50. I have a 0 at 0. So you could create a new one called horizontal offset. And I could set the initial value to that to be 20 or 15 or whatever. Alright, and every time we do that, we are creating new variables. And we can come through and edit these. If we would look at my code, you'll notice that I am, we're at the top of my code. Oh, too far. There we go. You'll notice that I am passing my vertical offset distance here. Well, if I determined that wasn't the right height, I could just come to my program data, change my vertical offset distance to 30, 50, 80, 100, whatever I needed to, hit OK, and I'd be good to go. So, makes our lives very easy. So, that program data screen is a very powerful tool. Now, notice it's only showing us data types right now that are being used. So if you want to see the ones that aren't being used, because you want to go create a new one, you could do all data type. We could come down here and we could do a string. We could show data, say new, string 1, initial value is hello world. Go ahead and hit OK. And hit OK again, and I now have that. And if I go back to data type, I only showed my used, you'll now see that string shows up. So very powerful little section of the code. Can you do this? You can do this on a computer right in the actual code without having to come into these types of things. But when you're on a robot trying to do something quick, this is where you want to come for your program data to be modifying things. Like you're like, that position is a little bit off. I need to tweak it slightly. Program data is where you're going to want to come. You're probably going to actually go back and forth between program data and jogging. So you can go to a specific position and say, okay, now let me tweak that slightly, and then you're going to come to program data. You're going to go to robot target, and you're going to go block 2, and you're going to say modify it, and you'll be good to go. So very easy way to get like a stack of 3, or to move to create your pyramid or whatever it is. So very powerful tool for creating your variables very quickly, even though it's using a simulated touchscreen and you can't just type out variables. So and that is about it for the program data screen.